Hi, my name is Ella Ferguson, and I'm part of the women's rights movement. It is July 7th, 1986, and I have found two outspoken anti-feminists to interview about their opinions of the several different issues concerning women's rights going on in our country today. So, nice to meet you. Name and occupation?
My name is James Thomas Pruitt, and I am a radical evangelical Christian.
Nice. And name and occupation in the frame of the video, please.
My name's Anti-Feminism, and I don't need to tell you what I do.
Fair enough. Okay. So, first question, how do you feel with the ERA?
It's asking for too much. The 14th Amendment already covers all equal rights for women. You guys are just being greedy.
So you think that the Equal Rights Amendment would be asking for too much with its additional benefits for
Yes.
women in the workplace
Yes.
and in politics and in
Yes.
social life?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I think we disagree. You said women in the workplace, and I think my opinions as both an anti-feminist and an evangelical Christian is that women were put on this earth for one reason, and that reason was to populate the planet and be there for their husband.
Okay, interesting perspective. So how would you feel, Aiden, if your daughter wanted to pursue a degree and not have kids, or if your wife wanted to get a job and your children didn't want to get married? How
They wouldn't.
Just like my colleague said, they wouldn't. They have one job, and that's to repopulate the earth and to stay in the kitchen.
Interesting. So how do you feel about feminists like me, or people who don't want to have kids or don't want to be in the kitchen and maybe want to pursue a career?
No comment.
Sorry about that brief interruption.
I'm sorry too. I'm very, very sorry.
Anyways, I don't know if I can thank you for your opinions, but they were very
You're welcome.
insightful. And yeah, that will be the conclusion of this interview. Thank you very much.
My name's Aiden Mata. I'm an interviewer from Fox News, and I'm interviewing
Thomas James.
and
Eleanor Ferguson.
I'm going to be asking you guys some questions about the political climate of women's rights. All right, so how do you guys feel about President Nixon?
I don't like Nixon. I think he is an outspoken sexist, but I do really agree with his newly revised Order 4, which mandated that companies with federal contracts submit straightforward plans for recruiting women. I think it really helps get women in the workforce and level the playing field.
Okay.
And I think I would have to strongly disagree. I think Nixon is a man with very good Christian values, and I wouldn't call him a sexist. I believe he just is traditional, and I think America needs that right now.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Order 4?
Order 4, I think that Order 4 is really interesting.
Do you have any other feelings about Nixon?
Yeah, actually, I do. Like I said, I don't really like him very much, especially because he vetoed a bill that provided federal funding for childcare. And you know what he said? He said that it would lead to the Sovietization of American children. That's what I think about Richard Nixon.
How do you respond to that?
I actually agree with his decision to veto that bill because I believe that children shouldn't be put in public institutions for childcare until they have to go to school. I think that the best place for them to thrive is at home with their mothers. Yeah.
Can I ask a question for you? Are you pro-choice or pro-life?
Next.
Switching it up a little bit, how do you feel about Gerald Ford?
Gerald Ford, I love him. I think that he's a great feminist, and he is a reliable ally of liberal feminists, a lot more than his predecessor, Nixon. Ford appointed record numbers of women to his administration, double the number that Nixon had. And Nixon had like a lot too. It's not saying something. And he was very robustly pro-choice, which I agree with quite a lot. What do you think about that?
Ford, he's never going to compare to Nixon in my eyes. I think Nixon didn't sway from his views, and I think Ford, is just, he needed that American approval, so he went and made some policies that I don't necessarily agree with.
How do you feel about pro-choice?
As a woman, I may or may not necessarily agree with that value. and say
I'm
I'm
Aiden Mata
pro-life.
from Fox News, and that was my interview.
Hi, my name is Jimmy Pruitt, and I'm here interviewing some members from a local book club here in Montgomery. What's your name?
My name's Aiden Mata, and this is my sister.
Ella Ferguson.
Awesome. So we're here with Aiden and Ella. So here in this book club, you guys read a lot, don't you?
No doubt.
All right. So I was gonna ask you guys a couple questions about like feminist and anti-feminist books. So I think this day and age, it's the 80s, it's the future. It can be very polarizing, picking sides. It feels like you have to pick a side. Which sides do you think that you guys are on?
I think I would speak for both of us when we say I feel like the feminist movement is really important in this country to make sure women have equal rights in the workplace, in politics, in social lives, and to just be able to have the freedom and independence to do what they want to do, not just be confined to a specific role.
That's awesome. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Great. So what do you think is like one of your favorite feminist or anti-feminist books to either of you? Floor is open.
I read this book the other day that I actually really did not like, if that's a good answer to the question. It was A Return to Modesty, and it was by Wendy Schalt, and basically it was this whole manifesto of saying how the feminist movement had turned into this sexual revolution, and that the only way to fix it was through modesty and women returning to their traditional roles. And I just kind of really disagree with that, but I think it's interesting that there's stuff like that out there.
Cool. So I know in that book, it said that long skirts and blushes would inspire chivalry in men. Would you say that your chivalry is inspired by long skirts and blushes? Are your shivers inspired? So what do you think is one of the craziest or most outrageous quotes you've heard from either feminists or anti-feminists?
From Phyllis Chafee? Is it
I think it's pronounced Shafely.
Safely? I remember it was, my analysis is that gays are about 5% of the attack on marriage in this country, and that feminists are about 95%, and that's just completely horrible. I really disagree.
That's facts. Do you agree with that?
I disagree with that completely. I feel like I disagree with Phyllis.
Okay.
Not my dear brother.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
So thank you guys so much for being a part of this interview, and see you around.